Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. In a moment, we're going to be talking to New Jersey Congressman Tom MacArthur about an interesting time in Washington, D.C. Also in today's show, why is living in New Jersey so expensive? We'll take a look at some of the key factors and the plan to consolidate many of New Jersey's towns and boroughs as a way of saving money and reducing property taxes. And now, our interview with New Jersey Congressman Tom MacArthur. Interesting time to be in Washington.
Yes, it always is, but it's certainly a lot going on these days.
And it's interesting when you watch the news cycle and the issues that come up. The ones that rise to the top on cable news don't seem to be the issues that affect people as much as some other issues that are very important. And I think I sensed your frustration in that very thing when you took to the House floor this week to ask for an extension of the National Flood Insurance Program. Is that right?
I was pretty worked up because we passed a bill, a reform bill that reauthorized this program for 5 years back in October of last year, and the Senate has literally done nothing. They've not even called it up. And here we are, the program set to expire at the end of this month, and literally in a couple of days, they've done nothing. And it seemed like House Republicans, my own party, seemed willing to just let it expire. And so I introduced legislation to extend it until the end of hurricane season, November 30th, give us another 4 months to negotiate with the Senate, and I got a lot of resistance. So
explain why it's important that it be extended.
well, it's vital. First, we have 140 million people that live in coastal counties. There are 5 million people that get their flood insurance through this program, but it doesn't just affect them. If they can't have insurance, God forbid there's another event like Sandy or even something less, those people are left exposed to Mother Nature without coverage. That affects them, that affects their whole county, the tax base of the whole county. It affects where people can live and people moving around the county. So it's pretty devastating to coastal counties if there's no flood insurance. You can't buy and sell houses along the shore if you don't have flood insurance because you can't get a mortgage without a flood insurance. So, you know, many of the people on the Financial Services Committee, good, well-meaning people, but they don't grasp what it's like to live on the shore and how desperately important this is. And for some of them to show callousness, even a willingness to let it lapse so they'd get more leverage perhaps in negotiating with the Senate, you didn't see frustration as much in my floor speech as determination. I was not going to let their desire for leverage get in the way of the coverage that my constituents need. And so
it's going to be passed now, right? It will be extended.
Well, we passed it overwhelmingly in the House. In the end, only about 50 people voted against it, and now it's in the Senate. Look, we have 2 U.S. senators. Like every other state, I hope they're going to fight for this and get it through.
Are they?
I can't imagine why they wouldn't.
But they haven't yet.
Well, if there was ever a time for them to use whatever leverage they have there to push this through, I hope they do exactly what I did. I hope they take to the floor and make sure their colleagues understand.
Because you have Ocean County. They have Cape May all the way up to the Hudson Bay.
And New Jersey is one of the heaviest users of flood insurance in the country. So nobody needs the uncertainty of 4 months at a time. It's sort of a dumb way to govern.
Let me stay with insurance for 1 second because this is your area of expertise, and you're going to, not in the middle of a campaign, you're just starting a campaign. The primaries are finished for re-election. There's a internet ad running claiming that your company, York Risk Services, didn't respond at Hurricane Sandy. Now, what I understand is you had left the company 2 years before Sandy hit.
2 years, and they know it. They know it because this is a cookie cutter copy of the same ad that Steve Lonigan and Amy Bellegarde tried to run in 2014, and it was taken down.
So you're saying they're lying and
yes,
they knew it?
They're lying and they know it. They know they're intentionally trying to deceive Ocean County voters and make them think that I don't care about my constituents. Look, there's a long list of things I've done in response to Sandy, and you'll see I put out a very tough response on that ad because my opponent, Andy Kim, was nowhere to be found after Hurricane Sandy. I doubt he could find most towns in this county on a map. And here he is intentionally trying to deceive voters when he knows I was out of the industry for years before, 2 years before Sandy. And look, I wasn't running for office. I wasn't contemplating running for Congress after Sandy. I did what I needed to do. My wife and I started a relief fund, St. Peter's Sandy Relief Fund, because I saw the needs around me.
It seems to be that he's focusing, and Andy Kim is your Democratic opponent, and he used to be a national security advisor with the Obama administration. The two things he seems to attack you on is your support of the tax cuts and your role in trying to repeal and replace Obamacare. They're the two things that he seems to be coming after you on. You now are going back with what they're calling Tax Cuts 2.0 and trying to amend some of the things that you feel like needed to be fixed in the first tax cuts. Am I phrasing that correctly?
Well, not just fixed. I mean, there are some technical corrections. We're also trying to make the individual tax cuts permanent, which I wanted to do in the first place. So that's the biggest change in Tax 2.0. But
what about the SALT deductions?
Well, I'm working on that too, but let's step back for a moment, because you are right. These are the two areas that I think my opponent wants to attack me on. When is the last time that we had an economy where growth is over 4% and unemployment is under 4%? Think about that.
I think the argument is that New Jersey is not seeing that because of the SALT deductions.
Well, we are. First of all, we are seeing some of that. There is no question that the tax bill, as good as it is for New Jersey residents, and I'll come back to that, it is still even better for states that have lower taxes. And our state's response was to raise taxes yet again, because they felt like, okay, well, our people are getting a tax cut, so they have the room to pay more taxes to the state of New Jersey. So I voted to cut taxes. 81% of New Jersey residents will get a tax cut under this bill. Another 10% will see no change at all. A small percentage, mostly at the top, will get a tax increase from the federal tax cuts bill that I supported. I wish more people had gotten involved. I mentioned our two senators with regard to flood. Imagine if they had stood shoulder to shoulder with me, and some of the other Democrats in our delegation stood shoulder to shoulder and demanded a higher SALT number. Imagine if they had helped. I was trying to get more, but I had zero help in this state. And we took it from zero, Larry, zero. That's what the Speaker, the White House, the Senate were all committed to, eliminating that altogether. And a handful of us, myself, two members of the New York delegation, and another member from another state, were able to convince our colleagues and press people to put a $10,000 cap. That's worth thousands of dollars to every New Jersey family, and it's worth $3.44 billion a year to this state.
And I'm going to have to end.
I'm proud of that.
And you made the point. I just have to take a break real quick. And I know there was two things that you had to get to with the tax cuts and your role in the repeal of Obamacare. We'll pick up with that. And then I want to also talk about you being the co-chair of the opioid task force.
Well, they're related, because that's the biggest healthcare crisis of our day.
And we'll get to that when Jersey Matters continues right after this.